people in the Old Testament would talk about the role of the father, the role of the father. Some of the things that God was very redundant with making sure that dads got was that it was the father's role to be the chief discipler. It was the father's job to teach the children about God. Now, how do you think that mirrors American culture today? I won't ask for a show of hands, but how many fathers here today, in the past with your children, or currently still have children at home, and you say, oh, that's me. I'm the one that always takes the initiative to set my child or my children down and read them the Bible, talk to them about God, and explain God to them. And when I see opportunities in their life when they're going through things, I'm the one that primarily inserts myself in their life and says, come on, let's talk about this. Let's pray about this. Let's talk about how God may see this. It was clearly understood that it was the father's job to be the primary chief discipler of the children. It was also made clear that it was the father's job to be the chief discipliner of the family. It was the father's job. It was the father's job in connection with him being the chief discipler. It would be a package deal, all under the heading of discipleship. Discipline would be the spiritual things that the father would teach the child about God and serving God, coupled with also then being the chief discipliner when the child's life was going a little bit awry. It was the father's job to make sure that the child was disciplined so that they wouldn't grow up and become an embarrassment to their mother. It was the child's job to make sure the child grew up in a way where it would not bring reproach upon the whole family. It was the father's job. It was the father's job. As God designed, it was dad's job. Dad's job. It was the father's job to be the primary caregiver. In America today, we understand in our culture, it's very hard for just one person to work and be the primary caregiver of the family. It's very difficult. But make no mistake about it, men, your wife can work all she wants, but according to God, it is your job to be the primary caregiver. It is your job. It is your job. It was the father who determined the course of the family. It was the father's role to teach their children about God and say, by the way, this is who we serve. And it would get handed down generation to generation. The God of my father. The God of my father's father. It would be the role of the dad to make sure they got it. That my family serves the Lord. Why? Because that's my decision. If the dad decided we're going to go over here and carve on a rock for a little while and we're going to bow down and worship a rock, then that's what the family did. And that's the route the children went, and their children and their children's children. The father and the father alone decided the spiritual future of the family and of generations to follow. It was the father's job to manage the family's destiny, is what I'm telling you. To manage the whole destiny of the family, those children, and where those children's lives went. It was the father's job to manage the destiny. That's powerful, isn't it? Things have changed a little bit in America. I was reading USA Today Friday, and if you read USA Today, right inside here on page 3, there's always this part called Nation Line. It's just a list of short stories of things that happened in the country the day before, usually. And it's usually real interesting things, and you wish there'd be more written on it. I saw this story, and it caught my attention because, boy, did it encapsulate the modern-day father in America. It's titled, Sailor Steps on Land After 3 Years. A sailor returned to dry land after cruising around the world for 3 years, arriving in New York to kiss his girlfriend and a toddler son he had never met. Thinking, wait, he's been gone 3 years. Is there something she needs to tell him? Reed Stowe, 58, docked his 70-foot, two-masted schooner named Anne to applause and cheers. Stowe had been sailing nonstop for 1,152 days, missing the birth of his 20-month-old son, Darshan. Stowe and Sonia Ahmad, 26, had planned to take a 1,000-day trip together and left from Hoboken, New Jersey in April 2007. After 10 months of sailing, Ahmad abandoned her quest nearly a third of the way because she got seasick and noticed, wait a minute, something's up here, I'm pregnant. Before we left, she said, we had an agreement that if I had to get off for any reason, he would go on, she said. There was no way he wasn't going to finish it. Now, we would think with carnal minds, we would look at this story and go, okay, this man and this woman, they get in this sailboat and they're going to start this 1,000-day journey sailing. And they have made agreements. She's agreed with him. No matter what happens, you need to finish this journey. This is your dream. This is your adventure of a lifetime. This is something you've always wanted to do. So if anything happens to me, you need to promise me that you'll just carry on. So 10 months into it, she gets pregnant and she has to offload somewhere. In the meantime, she has the baby. And by the time Daddy meets the baby's 23 months old. That's the American man mindset. Me first. My dreams, my adventures, the things I want to do. As a pastor, I see it routinely. And we would look at it and go, well, that's just, man, you just stick to your guns, man. You're just a man that knows how to follow your heart and pursue your dreams. And, oh, I so admire you. I have no admiration for this guy. That this guy would think it was more important to finish his boat ride than to be there when his child was born is a sad reflection on fathers everywhere. It's a state of mind. It's a perspective. I just finished counseling a young pastor in the Philippines this week via email. It's a young pastor that I met years ago over there, and he was the one that had it going on. You know, he was young, man, he was full of vinegar, and man, he was going for it. And it wouldn't take a thimble to hold his theology at the time, but man, he was just passionate, and this dude had been called, you could tell, and we loved this young pastor. And so through the years, of course, he's matured and he's become more seasoned, and the church has done very well, and he's been keeping in touch. And the last couple of months, he's just really been just constantly in touch with me and seeing me for some strange reason as his personal pastor. So he's been telling me about this school he wants to come to America and go to in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And finally, in one of his last letters, he kind of let a little more of the kitty out of the bag and said, oh yeah, by the way, there's this new church plant over there that I really want to be a part of. And so coming to school there is going to be my way of getting over there and getting on staff in this church. Well, let me tell you, if you haven't been doing any world traveling, let me tell you how this works. He's going to have to sweat blood to get a visa to get in America to go to that school. His family ain't coming with him. There is zero chance that their family can get a visa to all come here, regardless of his excuse. So I already know up front, even though I'm going to play the devil's advocate with him, I already know up front, this dude's got plans. He's got a glimmer in his eye. He's read too many books on America and the American church, and he's going to load up, and he's got 3 beautiful children that I have pictures of back there. He's going to leave his young wife and his 3 little children, and he's going to come to America because he can be on staff in a big church over here. And boy, then he can say, I've done something with my life. This young kid talks and talks and talks and talks about the call of God in his life and just this fire shut up in his bones. And I had to remind this young man, whether it be his church in the Philippines or the church in Minneapolis, St. Paul, neither one is his primary congregation. It is his household. And I told him, I said, I can't tell you that God would not do this, but I can tell you, you better have at least 2 burning bush experiences. Get a witness, make sure that first one wasn't just too much pizza. Of course, I asked him many other things that is between him and I. The bottom line is I had to challenge him. And I had to tell him, I said, Pastor, I'm not even going to pray with you that God will open this door. Because if you're telling me you're leaving your family to come to America, and you're just going to leave them there and come pursue the call of God, I can tell you it ain't God.